Hi, everybody. Welcome to a new edition of Let's Talk About Education with Antonio Corrales. As you may know, I'm an educator, an entrepreneur, and a university professor. My main goal is to introduce you to pioneers in the field of education and to let you know about topics that you may not be aware of, but you may be interested in. Today, we have the honor to have with us Dr.Jana Willis, somebody that quietly but methodically is changing the life of many in the field of educational technology. Thank you so much for being with us, Dr. Willis.
Thank you, Dr.
It's
Corrales.
been a long, cold, lonely winter. Little darling, it feels like years since it's been here. Here comes the sun.
Well, Dr. Willis, can you let the audience know about a little bit about yourself and where you are in your career? How do you get where you are right now?
Sure, I'd be happy to. I was a programmer in the oil and gas industry of Houston, Texas for about 20 years before I decided to make a move into education. So I translated those skills into public school education as a computer science teacher at the high school level. I immediately noticed that I was very interested in providing and developing professional development for teachers. So I thought, well, I will extend my career, blending my old skills with my new skills, and went on to get a master's in instructional design and technology and then a doctorate in educational psychology with a focus on educational technology, with my goal being to educate more pre-service teachers and classroom teachers in the use of technology to improve education. So I have been here at the university now for 18 years.
Nice. That's awesome. Can you let the audience know why instruction technology? Where do you get that passion about that? Because there's a lot of misperception about instructional technology. Some people in school districts believe that technology and instructional technology is pretty much the same. In fact, you have positions that are called director of technology, and people tend to think that they have that direct impact on instruction, and may not be the case most of the time. So can you talk a little bit about that? Where you get that passion from instructional technology, and how do you deal with that difference between technology and instructional technology, that confusion that some students may have or some professionals in the field may have?
Well, I think if we go back and we define technology, let's start with technology. Could just be that pen you have sitting in your hand right now. So technology, let's just define it as an innovation. It's a new tablet, it's a new mobile device, it's a new projector system. It is a new innovation that, if incorporated into the learning processes, could improve student learning. I've never been an advocate that technology makes students learn more or learn better. But we have found that over time, the novelty, this sparkliness of technology engages students. It motivates them to engage in the learning a little bit longer. So if they stay on task a little bit longer or they spend a little more time on a subject matter, they're more likely to learn more about it. If used correctly and if appropriate design measures are put into place, and that's the piece of instructional technology that often gets overlooked. Too much emphasis is put on the technology and not on the design. Instructional design really takes from learning theory and the cognitive theories out there, how do people learn, and uses that to build instruction in a way that translates the content into modes that students can more easily understand. What technology gives us is so many modalities. So now when I provide content to a student, I can touch every sense. I can give them visual, I can give them audio, I can give them things that are more tangible and more tactile in nature. So technology gives us devices or innovations that allow us to present content in a wide range of information areas that then students can then absorb it better. So technology is afforded as blended learning, flipped classrooms. It's just every new innovation brings something new to the table. And as instructional designers, then our goal is to find out how to best deliver that instruction using that new innovation. So if you go all the way back to the first computers, the first overhead projectors, we've had a learning curve with each innovation. How do we use it best to enhance an education?
And did you see that in the years that you have in the field and the years that you have been training new professionals in the field of instructional technology, do you see an impact on student performance? Do you see an impact on the way we do business in education during the past years?
I think that where we're lacking in public school education and where the university could serve as a partner is we are behind in collecting empirical research on the impact that these innovations are having on student learning outcomes. I think that if school districts would make better partnerships with colleges and universities to bring in research teams to collect that empirical data, then they would know what kind of return on investment they're getting on these innovations, and we would be able to see without a doubt if we were having an impact on student learning. But right now there's just not good empirical research out there.
So if you will have to, and I know you have done this several times and within your within your roles, if you will have to advise school districts or administrators or teachers in general, what are the things that you will tell them to do in their organization to positively influence and increase instructional technology in their schools? What will you recommend? What will be the steps that you will tell them to do?
Pilot first. Okay. Pilot first. If there's a new innovation out on the market, do it on a very small scale and do a controlled pilot. Make sure you have a treatment group and a control group that you're really looking at what the impact of that innovation is on that population, on the teacher, on the teacher's instructional strategies, on the classroom management, on student learning outcomes, but do it on a very small scale. Don't buy 10,000 iPads and deploy them across your district because it's going to fail. But do get 30. Try it in a small scale environment. Look at second grade writing skills. Just use something very isolated and collect that really strong data that says, yes, I'm getting bang for my buck for this investment. Then replicate it across grade levels and across content.
Well, and that's a great point because some people may be missing the ball sometimes in regards to buying infrastructure, buying feature without updating their infrastructure. I remember one case in a school district where during the bailout process we had extra funds. People ended up buying a lot of iPads or a lot of interacting boards, but didn't have the training or didn't have the technical infrastructure to support those things. What would you recommend to balance that? Because I guess when you look at school boards and when you look at educators, they really want to help kids, and they immediately think, okay, I need to buy computers, I need to buy iPads. How would you recommend it to balance that in a smart approach?
I would think that if districts would build teams, internal teams, and in those teams have a board member, have an administrator, most importantly have a classroom teacher, have students, have curriculum specialists, have your instructional technologists, all come to the table together. Really look, does this technology move this district closer to meeting their goals? Does it meet the needs of their learner population? Does it fit within their infrastructure? But you have to have all the stakeholders at the table making these decisions. So if you go back to that idea of a small pilot, then it's very feasible to put this small team together to do a simple pilot, see what your outcomes are, then take it to your board and sell the idea. But you've got data behind your decisions, and it's not somebody's whim of what might work. It's a proven intervention that's going to give this district some forward motion. So finding those teachers that are innovators, that are willing to take chances, then bring them to the table. Let them have this arena to try new things, but don't force it across a whole district. You're going to get too much pushback, there's going to be learning curves, and people are going to put it on a shelf and not use it. But if you allow those pilots to grow, then the enthusiasm and the positive feel that comes out of the good experiences then blossoms.
Well, and you can evaluate it. You can evaluate it in a school year. Did this work? It didn't work. Instead of investing a ton of money in a particular field without knowing if it's going to work or not. That's a great tip. What are the best ways or the easiest way for an administrator or a teacher who are not savvy in the field of instructional technology to elevate the level of awareness, elevate their knowledge level? I mean, a lot of educators are traditional, and they prefer their books, they prefer typical common instructional tools in the classrooms. What are the best ways for educators in general to look for ways to increase their knowledge in the field of instructional technology? What do you recommend?
I know you've raised children of your own.
Yeah.
Go back to when they were toddlers. They took it apart. They put it back together. They pushed buttons. As adults, we become more fearful of that. If you go into a training classroom with kindergartners, you can't keep their hands off the keyboard or off the device. They're playing with it. They're poking. They have no fear of it breaking or crashing. As people get older, they're more hesitant. They sit with their hands in their lap. What button do I push? Do I push this button? Are you sure I push this button? What happens if I push this button? Let go of that fear. You're not going to break it. You can't hurt it. It's all very moldable. Everything is doable. Treat it like you are a child. Explore with it. Push the button. See what it's going to do. Once you get past that fear of the unknown, then it becomes second nature. There's just nothing that you can harm. I watch people when they get the new iPhone or a new tablet. They're very hesitant to poke around on it. The worst that can happen is you're going to reset it back to factory settings and move on with your life.
They're scared to make mistakes.
Absolutely. And fear of failure. We teach fear of failure as we go through because you're graded, you're evaluated. Children don't have that fear of being evaluated or making something not work. They're exploratory. And so that's my first advice, is just take it apart, put it back together, see what it does. If you go and you look at people that are innovators, early adopters of an innovation, they have that mindset of give it to me, let me see what it does. I interviewed a teacher one time who I went and observed her classroom, and not once during all my observations, and I observed 6 times over a semester, did I see her children take out a book. They used manipulatives, they used other types of devices, they used tablets, they came to the board, they were very interactive, they did small group things. And my exit interview, I asked her, I said, if I came to your classroom tomorrow and said, here is this black box, and if you use it in your classroom tomorrow, your students are going to learn more, what would you do? She said, well, I would take that box home, take it apart, figure out how it works, and I'd use it the next day in my classroom. But it's developing that mindset of, let's just try it. What's the worst that can happen? We'll do it again another day.
Talking about that, do you think that, one of the biggest restraint in school districts and schools is budget? However, when you look at the world of instructional technology, a lot of school districts and a lot of schools have that tendency of thinking, okay, I have a director of technology, or I have a technology department, and they solely think about the infrastructure part. Okay, they think about those folks are going to take care of that the computers work properly, that the software work properly, that if there any troubleshooting in the field, I'm going to take care of that. But there's not many are looking at the instructional part, which is technology. Do you think that is a money well invested hiring instructional technology specialists or instructional technology directors in school districts or schools?
I do. And to me, the perfect marriage is between the instructional technology department and the curriculum instruction. If you go back to the beginning of time when we first started doing technology integration research studies, the barriers to technology almost always come back to time. Teachers don't have time. They don't have time any more today than they did yesterday. They're not going to have any more time tomorrow. So until we get to, until we get to the point in our development that we hand new teachers integrated curriculum, give them the scope and sequence with examples of where technology integration would fit. Where is it seamlessly used? Give that to them at the time. It's just never going to happen, because they're going to go back to the old ways of teaching. They're going to go back to their own comfort zone of teaching. But if they see examples of new ways, then they're going to be more likely to use it, because they don't have time to go find the websites, to find the resources, to find the apps, to test them, to see if they're going to work, to make sure that that new device is going to do what it's supposed to in the classroom. But if your curriculum developers and your instructional technologists would come together and develop that 100% integrated curriculum from the very beginning of the semester, you're handing it to them in a way that they can already see where it fits.
In the lesson plan.
In the lesson plan.
Because you're exactly right. And let's be honest, sometimes the administrators, assistant principals, or principals don't have the time to really spend that time frame in the classroom to make sure that the instructional technology is there. So yeah, I agree with that. I mean, having instructional technology may think to be the real road path to increase performance and also utilize technology the appropriate way. Now I wanted to ask you, what about educators willing to continue their education with a master or a doctorate? Why would you recommend to focus on instructional technology as their specialization if they want to continue their education? They say that they're teachers, or they say that they're administrators. Why would you recommend pursuing continue their education in the field of instructional technology?
Well, because I think technology is not going anywhere. Technology is here to stay. And we need leaders. We need champions. We need those early adopters, those people that are comfortable blending technology into the instructional setting. And we need them today. We need people that are going to come in and get masters and get doctorates with educational or instructional technology focuses, because we're going to be bringing in technologies in the classroom that haven't even been invented yet. If you look at the rapid development of technology since the first computers that were in the classroom to where we are now, you look at the iPhone. A new one comes out every 6 months. New technologies are coming out so fast that if we don't have people in decision-making places in the district to be innovators, then those districts are going to stagnate. They're not going to grow. Finding a district that has at the top of their pyramid a superintendent that is tech savvy and a tech innovator sets the tone for the whole district. They're willing to move forward. They're willing to try new innovation. Or a principal. Then they're going to make a big change in that campus. Building learning communities within a district, across a district. Put second grade teachers with second grade teachers. Putting second grade teachers with high school teachers. Their content's not the same. The needs of their learners are not the same. Building those internal learning communities that will really help move technology forward within a district. I always tell my pre-service teachers, before you use an app, before you use an innovation in the classroom, go find yourself on the internet. Go Google and find a second grade teacher who's looking for something in reading and look at what they're doing. But don't look at an 8th grade science teacher and try to make that fit. It just doesn't work. It's like those blanket PDs that they do, where they pulled everybody in one auditorium to do a PD. It's not going to translate because it needs to fit the needs of those learner populations and the needs of the content and the needs of the teacher.
Now, a lot of folks out there are not familiar with instructional technology. They really don't understand what does it mean. What would you recommend for regular folks, parents, board members, and students in general, to improve their skills on instructional technology? What steps? What would you recommend them to do?
Explore it. Explore it. Absolutely, just jump in and explore it. We spent one semester developing all of our tutorials and these little short snippet videos that were really clever. Gave them all to the students in the class for them to learn. They didn't like them. They wanted to know where their paper-based tutorial was. They wanted to click, 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 click. But that was the needs of that learner population. I work with a gifted and talented 4th and 5th grade class now at the university, and they go to YouTube for everything. They learn how to tie their shoes. They learn how to build things.
They're less fearful to explore.
Well, and they like that audio video world. That's what they live in. Getting people engaged in it. Just try it. Don't be afraid to poke around on it, see what it's going to do. If that app looks interesting, download it, play with it. Get rid of it if you don't want it. But I think that if more people would let go of the fear of the unknown, and just embrace it and enjoy the journey it takes you on, then you're going to be more in connection with your kids at home, because you can sit with them and play on the games. We joke that my grandson always wants me to play Mario with him, and I'm terrible. And I said, why do you want me to play with you? And he said, well, it's fun. So even when it's something challenging for us, it reconnects us with that for those kids, and they learn through different modes now than what we did. We learned in a textbook, and they learned through audio and through video, and so I think we have to embrace that change.
That's awesome. Now, Dr. Willis, for those folks out there that are, admire you and look at you and follow you, can you tell us a little bit about your newest research? What are the filters? I know you're constantly writing grants. You're constantly trying to research for new technology in the classroom, in the field. Can you tell the audience a little bit about what are your latest research, and if people want to join you on that journey, so they can be aware of what you're doing lately?
I've spent the last few years working on games in education. And that translates everything from gamifying a classroom, gamifying instruction, up to developing educational games. Kids play games all the time. So if learning is embedded into the gameplay, then that's just more instruction they're getting in something that they find entertaining. So simple things. And people are intrinsically motivated. We all like to have a challenge. We all like to get a higher score or level up or to be the champion. So we're all intrinsically motivated by those types of feelings. Playing old-fashioned board games, everybody wants to win. You want to get all the properties of Monopoly. So using those kind of strategies in instruction can move a worksheet from something that's just text on a piece of paper to something that's a challenge, something that is engaging and kids want to do it. So even simple steps of bringing gamified strategies into the classroom, into the pedagogical approaches that teachers use, I think would engage students more. And then enhancing games that are out there to have an educational component, but also an assessment system. A teacher could let a student use a drill game for hours, but then at the end of the day, that teacher has no way of knowing, did they learn anything? So building backbones in games that have assessment strategies built in, where the teacher can go and look at a grade book or a toolbox and say, oh, I see that Tommy made the same mistake 4 times on this strategy. I need to work with him on that strategy. Collecting that type of data within the games, those analytics that help us better understand the learning processes that are going on, are going to help improve student learning, because kids will come back to these games because they're entertaining, but we can track how their content development is going.
Awesome. Well, Dr. Willis, I want to thank you for being with us today. For you folks out there, at the end of the video, I'm gonna have a slide where you're gonna be able to have my information and Dr. Willis' information. If you want to contact her, you want to contact me to ask any other question. We're also gonna have some web pages for you guys to visit and learn more about instructional technology. I want to thank you for being with us today, and have a great day.